and welcome to Retro Warriors, episode 396.
Woo.
As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hi, Saturn.
Hi, Justin.
We do have a little bit of housekeeping, which is that because this week was weird, and the topic we selected ended up kind of being a dud,
Yeah.
we came
I
up
don't
with
even
this
know that
topic.
it was a dud. It was just neither one of us figured out how we wanted to do that episode, so we just put it on the
Yeah.
back burner.
So instead, we came up with this episode really quickly in like an hour and a half. So if it
It's
feels
fine.
weird
It's
or
fine.
weirdly paced or it's too short or
fine.
whatever, then we apologize.
It's fine.
But just in case things seem a little more off the cuff than they normally are. We're normally so regimented, Saturn.
Are we?
We don't ever go on tangents or say any weird shit or
No.
none of
Never.
that.
None of that happens.
We don't talk about regional Tex-Mex buffet chains in the beginning of the shows. Or
Never does that happen.
any of that. Not a thing that occurs around here.
No, certainly not.
I've been playing Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Oh.
You heard about this game? It's one of them gun games, one of the murder simulators.
Is it popular?
Yeah, it's apparently it's the fourth one, and it's supposed to be real good.
That's weird.
It's,
You'd think I would have heard about it.
I get in a mood for a military FPS from time to time. I do like them. I just don't like that they seem to be some of the most egregious offenders in the new age of video game sales that include season passes and legendary editions and bullshit and
Right.
map packs and loot boxes. So I don't engage with them. And I also don't like playing them online. I like the campaigns.
Which seems to be the part they're cutting out these days.
Yes, which is another reason I'm veering away from them. But I had never actually played Call of Duty 4. Now I've played Call of Duties 1 and 2, and I played a little bit of Call of Duty 3, which I think was Big Red 1, or maybe the Xbox 360 version was Big Red 1.
Would it be Call of Duties or Calls of Duty?
I think it would be the duty. It's always the same duty,
Yeah.
but they call you for it multiple times.
So it'd be Calls of Duty.
It'd be calls. Yes, I've played the previous Calls of Duty.
Okay, good. We've said
'Cause the
duty
duty-
so many times that now it sounds like poop.
The duty is always military service. It's always
poop.
the same thing. It's the same thing. I'd never played Call of Duty 4, and I got it on sale for I think $9. And I know the campaign was pretty short. It ended up being like I think I played it for like 8 hours, and it's about $1 an hour for enjoyment. I will say, very good FPS campaign. Really a very good one. If you like good FPS campaigns and you can get it on sale for less than a $10 bill and you've never played Call of Duty 4 like me, then I really liked it. I thought it was a pretty gosh darn good first-person shooter campaign. Still played great. Played it on my Steam Deck with gyro controls because despite the fact that it came out in 2008, the PC version has literally no controller support whatsoever.
But what controller would they use? It's a PC. PCs don't have controllers.
I know. Saturn, it came out on the Xbox 360.
Oh, yeah. No, the PCs didn't have controllers then.
But I did finally land on some decent controls for it that included whenever I aimed down my iron sights, it would kick on my gyro. So I would do gyro for fine-tune aiming. And I would do the touchpad for FPS aiming. And I ended up playing a lot of it with my Steam controller with the same thing, with the gyro and the touchpad. And it worked really well because the thing about FPS games is that any game with controller support built in, well, I should say the majority of games, FPS games with controller support built in, also include aim assist. And when you buy FPS games on consoles, they include aim assist. In some games, like Doom Eternal, let you adjust the level of aim assist. Other games do it too, but they include aim assist because the idea is that it's harder to aim with a stick than it is with a mouse. So when you play a PC version of a game that has no controller support, there is no aim assist. So playing it with a controller is really hard to do. At least if you're really bad at them. I'm really bad at the games, so it's hard for me. But this got me, the touchpad with gyro got me extremely close to mouse and keyboard. It got me real close. And at first it was a little weird, but by the end of the campaign, I was doing great. I was flying on it. And so I'm reinvigorated at the idea of PC FPS games being highly playable with my Steam controller and my Steam Deck. because that is an area that I kind of struggle with because I rarely sit at my PC to play a PC game, but I like playing a lot of older FPS games, and so that has been very nice.
I would like to say that I am distressed by this information because you have informed me that most console FPS games where you use a controller have aim assist, you say?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Then why am I so much worse at aiming on a controller than I am on a mouse and keyboard?
I will tell you, it is because a mouse is just that much more precise. It just is.
Even with this supposed aim assist, I feel like an idiot who has never held a controller before every time I play an FPS.
Yeah. That sounds correct.
Yeah.
If you have a Steam controller, try to play one with the Steam controller touchpad. It is surprisingly playable. Not that you really ever play FPS games.
Nope, not if I can help it.
If you ever wanted to see, maybe you wanted to play Doom. Yeah, Doom's a good one.
Yeah. I have Doom 3 as well. That's a good one. I like that.
Also kind of similar-ish. I picked up Halo Wars. It was on sale for $4 for Halo Wars Remastered.
Isn't that the RTS one?
It is the RTS, and it is an RTS that was built for native controller support in mind, and it is really super duper fun. I'm having a real good time with it. I cannot fucking progress in the campaign because the mission I'm on is so goddamn hard.
See,
but it's just super fun. I love it. I've always loved how colorful Halo is, and something about seeing a whole battlefield at once, like everything's neon greens and purples and blues, and it's just a cool, fun, colorful RTS that plays great on Steam Deck because it was built for a controller. So, what were you saying?
I've heard about Halo Wars. I've not played it, obviously, but when somebody first described it to me as Halo but an RTS, I just imagined StarCraft, but all the little Marines were Master Chiefs. And
sure.
That seemed adorable to me. I just want to see like 30 Master Chiefs running around shooting Zergs.
If you like RTS games, but like me, you kind of play them sort of casually, then I think it's a great game because it by its nature, it cannot be the most in-depth RTS because it's controller bound.
Sure.
But that also means that it's kind of a more accessible, fun, easier to understand RTS. I'm having a really good time with it, and for $5, it was a steal.
Nice.
I also picked up the Disgaeas 4 and 5 off of the Nipponichi's having a Steam sale because they just unveiled Disgaea 7 is coming out, and they just released the NIS Classics Volume 2, which is Rhapsody and La Pucelle Ragnarok.
Yes.
And so they have all the old Disgaea games on sale, so I picked up 4 and 5. The 4 is the Complete Plus edition. I don't know what the Complete is, and I don't know what the Plus is. And then 5 is just Complete, so it's not Complete Plus, but it's 5.
Have to get more later.
I'm gonna have to have to buy the Plus at some point, right?
Justin.
And they were on sale, and so I've been playing Disgaea 4, and it's real good, man.
How far are you into it?
I'm maybe, I don't know, 15 levels in. I'm super early still.
Justin, it's Disgaea. You have to gauge your time by how many dudes you've encountered.
Oh, I've encountered many dudes.
Oh, there's lots of many dudes in. All right, cool.
What I like about this one is that for anyone that's played the Disgaea games, or like me, maybe only played the earlier ones, the one I played the most was Disgaea DS. I have countless hours in that one, which is a surprisingly faithful port of the first Disgaea game. But what I always kind of annoyed me about Disgaea is that the monster characters you get are kind of useless and garbage. And so you would get like pretties in the game, but they were really only useful for throwing and using as bombs.
Yeah.
And then as I progressed through the games, and I'm no master at them, so maybe someone out there is like, Justin, you idiot, you need to use them in this specific broken way, and it will make them useful. But I couldn't figure that out because of my aforementioned dumbness.
Right.
And so this one lets you take any monster characters and you can fuse them with other similar monster characters to make a huge one.
Nice.
Or just walk them into one of your human characters, and that human character will equip them as a weapon. And it makes...
Just wielding printies.
Yeah, basically.
Nice.
You stretch them out in like a long bow in like some kind of weird pseudo Beetlejuice kind of segment. But it adds usefulness to characters that I found useless before. It has tons and tons of new mechanical features that I don't fully understand yet. You can like petition the Senate for cheats and like weird shit like that. It's
US
fun.
Senate?
No, the Monster Senate.
Oh, good.
That's in the game.
I have a feeling they'll respond faster.
Well, you can bribe them with like fish and swords.
Yeah.
The U.S. Senate demands money,
Right.
so it's a little harder.
Yeah.
It's just real fun. It's Disgaea, so it's the stupidest possible story they could come
Right.
up with, connected to the most complex strategy RPG they could come up with. And I like it. I've liked all of the Disgaea games I played.
Nice.
I've played 1 and 2. I played one of the PSP ones. I played Disgaea DS. I think I started 3, which I think is still trapped on the PS3 or something, because that one is not on Steam. But it's they're good, man. They're good games. I've been greatly enjoying Disgaea 4, and I've gotten in a nice grind, which I really like grinding in those games.
Yeah.
Even
Also,
though
those games have enormous numbers.
they do. The numbers get real big super fast.
Yeah.
Where I am, there's still a lot of zeros, which is not a good number. You want much bigger numbers than 0.
I don't know.
Yeah, your number could contain zeros.
Do they get bigger than 0?
But you want a different digit at the beginning. Disgaea tip. Don't 0's a bad number.
Numbers in front of zeros. Got it.
But it's fun. It's stupid. It's a good time. I'm having a good time with it. I'm excited to play more of it. Probably finish the story. Not really digging the post game content. Get bored with it and move on to Disgaea 5.
I have no idea how you can juggle a Disgaea game and a Ni no Kuni game at the same time. That feels so impossible to me.
Disgaea is level based.
Yeah.
So I go in there, and the levels in compared to other SRPGs, Disgaea levels are dramatically shorter than something you'll find in like Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics. Those battles drag on for fucking ever.
Right.
And certainly they get longer as you go in Disgaea games, but they're still pretty snappy in the realm of SRPGs. So I can fire up Disgaea, play like 2 levels, and feel accomplished and move on.
That's fair.
So that's kind of how I play them. Is I'll load it up and I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna grind for 4 or 5 levels on a level that I've figured out how to perfectly, efficiently maximize my XP, or I'm gonna do a couple story levels, and then I can close it and move on and go play more Call of Duty. Although now Steam thinks the only game I ever want to play for the rest of my life is Call of Duty.
Look what you've done.
It turns out there are 90 million of them.
I have told Steam to block military shooters, and it still thinks I want to play the newest Call of Duty.
Yeah, so I guess have to deal
Modern
with that
Warfare 2 is not a military shooter.
Apparently not. I mean, what do we know?
Right.
Anyway, just JRPGs and military shooters on my end of
basically the same
the thing. What have you been playing?
The same military shooters and JRPGs.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
The demo for the new Theatrhythm came out.
How is that?
It's good. Oh man, it's basically the same as the all the others.
I've played 0 of them.
Oh, they're fun. I would definitely try the demo at least. It's on Switch and PS4.
I gotta hook one of those up.
Yeah.
I don't know, Saturn.
You don't have to hook up the Switch.
Ask.
It's a handheld.
This is true. I can just take it out and plug it in.
Exactly. But no, they're fun. It was also on 3DS and iOS and arcade. You could play one of those if you prefer. But no, it's basically just a pure injection of nostalgia. It is the purest form of nostalgia, which is just music and visuals. And there's cute Moogles and Chocobos and Cactuars and Tonberries dancing around, and then you get little chibi versions of all the characters from the games.
Yeah,
and sometimes it makes no sense because it'll be music from one game and characters from another game, and they're fighting an enemy from a third game, and the music is not even battle music at all. It's like the goofy Chocobo music or something, and your guys are just like slamming the shit out of Shiva for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So but it's still adorable. The whole thing is adorable. The art style is adorable. The gameplay is neat and fun. And somebody in our Discord was pointing out that when they had played it on 3DS, that they had exclusively used touch controls, and that it was a pretty sharp change to go from that to gamepad, which I had only ever played on gamepad on the 3DS, so I had forgotten that that would be such a thing. But yeah, I could see how that could be a challenge. But
yeah, one of the wide stable of touch-based rhythm games up there with Elite Beat Agents, which was a hot thing for like a month.
Oh yeah, and then the demo of it lets you choose from 6 games in the series to pick a handful of songs from and play through. And so you have all of the favorites. You have 7 and 15 and 14 and 5 and 2.
What?
Yeah. I was surprised that and 13 was also in there. So the popular ones, you have 7, 13.
What a fucking lineup, man.
7, 13, 14, 15, those are all very popular. I will not deny that. But then 2 and 5, those felt like weird choices.
What a bizarre. And don't get me wrong, I love 5. But
yeah, they have 2, not my favorite Final Fantasy game, but has some excellent music in it. And so in this case, that's fine. The full game will have all of them, obviously.
Right.
And it also has things like Mystic Quest in there and some spin-off games like Crystal Chronicles and Tactics.
Final Fantasy Legend 3?
That is considered part of the Saga series, so that is not in this. However...
well, the front of my cartridge says Final Fantasy!
They have also said that there will be DLC packages, and the preview video actually shows off the DLC, which you get with the Premium Deluxe Edition.
Oh my god.
And the DLC includes stuff from Saga and from Seiken Densetsu and from Nier and from Chrono Trigger and stuff like that. So
yeah, how exciting.
Yeah, so that'll be nice. I'm looking forward to the full version because it is fun and it is cute, and that's all I really want in a game. Yeah. And also I went back and played some more of Inscryption.
By playing some more, you mean mainlining it for days? Because that is all that I've seen on your Discord status.
Well, okay.
Inscryption.
So I've been starting it and then like leaving it on in the other room because I'll get distracted by work or my cat or whatever. So it's just sitting in there. But yeah, so it's been running a lot, but I have been playing it some. So I went back and was playing some on PS5 because so there's a DLC package that they had released after the game came out that they call Casey's Mod, and it's basically the roguelike version where it's just Act 1 and it makes you start over every time, and you have to make a new deck every time and just completely start over. Yeah. And it has these optional challenges that you can add to it, and it's things like all bosses have an extra sigil, or all battles have an extra sigil, or all bosses and all battles have an extra sigil, or you can't get good cards anymore, or the enemy always starts with 1 extra point of damage on you, or all enemies are spiky and cause damage to you when you hit them. And just shit like that just makes the game harder. And if you get through all of them, it unlocks one extra challenge, which is all boss fights are replaced with just 8 bears that have way too much health and can instantly obliterate you. And I'm looking through the achievement list on the game, and one of these achievements is play through the DLC mod with all of the challenges active at the same time. And I'm like, well, that sounds literally impossible, so I have to try it.
Yeah.
And after many attempts of really cheesing my way through, of every time I would start a battle and see what the enemy pattern was, I would just exit back to the menu and restart the battle over and over. I finally got through it. And so I felt like I had done all of the things at that point. So I was like, I'm still kind of feeling like I want to play some of it, but I did all of the stuff. So the PS5 version came with the PS4 version for free, so I'll just play it on my PS4. That's already in the bedroom where I'm working anyway, so I don't have to stream a console from the other room.
Yeah.
So I loaded it up on my PS4, and I was under the impression that Inscryption was like an indie game. Not anything super sophisticated, and my PS4 disagrees with that because holy shit, does it challenge the PS4? Like, it is dropping.
I think just existing at normal human temperature challenges the PS4. I think just in a general sense.
Holy shit! Like, I would be shocked if it is running at above 10 frames per second sometimes.
Oh my god!
And it is losing frames everywhere.
It's not an intense game.
Oh man, even when it drops to the pixel art in the 2D section of the game, it is struggling to do the most basic animations. And
Can I ask a question about Inscryption?
Sure.
Because I was sold a card game.
Yeah.
And I picked it up. And I played some of it, and I was like, that's a fine card game.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Okay.
Does it get all weird and wibbly wobbly after a little while?
Kinda.
Like kind of bizarre meta shit?
Yeah.
Or does it just kind of keep being a card game?
There's definitely some bizarre meta shit, but that meta shit is played through the card game.
Okay.
Yeah, like even when it changes its genre drastically, as soon as it gets to any gameplay, it's like, and here's your cards again.
Okay.
So it is always the card game.
Yeah. I think I was hot off of Slay the Spire and went into Inscryption, and Inscryption, it seems to kind of sell itself on its aesthetic and ambiance and kind of weirdness.
Yeah.
And less on the still decent but not outstanding card game.
Yeah. And the card game is also very broken, usually in your favor.
Yeah, well, that seems on purpose. Yeah. The secret about card games is that most of them are broken.
Yeah.
Card games are just kind of broken. That's what makes them so fun. Is they're broken. You can do broken things.
Yeah, it's always fun to find the super broken strategy. There's a card in Inscryption called the Ouroboros.
Mm-hmm.
And it has one sigil on it, which is the one that where it can't die. It's the Undying. So anytime that somebody kills it, it's returned to your hand so that you can replay it if you want to, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing about the Ouroboros is every time it dies, its attack and its health go up by 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get the card, it has 1 attack, 1 health. But if it dies, now it has 2 attack and 2 health. And if it dies again, it's up to 3 attack and 3 health, which makes it a pretty powerful card. And the thing is, and in the main story mode of Inscryption, not counting the DLC mod, the Ouroboros' strength and health carry out through the entire game.
Yeah.
So if its health gets up to 5 in one battle, in the next battle it starts at 5. And there is, when you get to the second act of Inscryption, there is a card that its whole purpose is, because one of the mechanics is you can collect bone tokens whenever your cards die, and some cards, their cost is bone tokens, so you need bone tokens. And so this other card, its whole point is to collect bone tokens. So if one of your cards dies, it makes that card immediately die a second time. So you get 2 bone tokens out of it. But if you're killing the Ouroboros, its power increases twice because it died twice.
Yeah.
And then there's another card that you can get that lets you sacrifice it without the card actually going away. So you can sacrifice that card to create an Ouroboros, and you've sacrificed nothing, so it costs you nothing. And then you can kill your own Ouroboros by sacrificing that Ouroboros to create anything else, and it will die twice, so it creates a duplicate Ouroboros in your hand because both of them return to your hand. And you can keep doing this infinitely on your turn. And I ended up with an Ouroboros with an attack power of 1,000.
Yeah. This all sounds like very normal card game things to me. I know you don't play card games, but I assure you, this kind of fuckery is not only normal, but encouraged.
So my point is, though, on the PS4 where everything is so very slow. I was trying the same trick because there's an achievement you get for dealing 666 damage in a single round, which is difficult because the most powerful card you normally get has an attack power of 4.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way I can think of to do it is using the Ouroboros and cheating with it.
Yeah.
So I was maxing
Saturn,
out.
It's not cheating. It's strategy.
Okay. I'm sorry. Exploiting the Ouroboros.
Okay. I'll give you that one.
So I was building it up, and it was getting to the point to where anytime that I would attack with the Ouroboros, because the PS4 is already dragging so hard on this game, the attack would take like 15 seconds. And I have an SSD in my PS4. I'm not like running off of the original 5400 RPM hard drive. It would just take forever for it to do its attack. And then any overkill damage you do in the game gets returned to you as currency after the battle. Mm-hmm. And the currency ticker was going up like $1 at a time. So I just like set the controller down and left the room and came back, and it was like still ticking up dollars. And I was like, oh, that's stupid. And then I forgot about it, and I got to the next phase of the game, and I get the fucking Ouroboros back, and its attack power is in the 500s at this point. I'm like, oh no.
Why are you still playing it on your PS4?
I don't know. There's something
Turn
wrong
it the
with me.
fuck off.
But Justin, there's trophies to get.
Oh my God.
And so
I got a box of trophies in my attic. I'll mail you one if you stop playing.
Oh man, it is so
play it on
slow.
your PS5.
Well, I already did it on PS5 though. I already got all the PS5 trophies.
I see.
But no, it's shocking to me how poorly the PS4 handles the game. It's unbearable.
Let's do the news.
Anyway. Yeah, go ahead.
First up, Japan officially commemorates January 31st as Final Fantasy VII Day.
Okay.
Do other Final Fantasy games have days?
No.
In Japan? It's the only one?
It's the anniversary of the game's release. It was released
see.
January 31st of 97.
I see.
So
So other Final Fantasy games don't have days.
Correct. So on Final Fantasy VII's 26th anniversary, they officially declared Final Fantasy VII Day.
Also, you gotta be fucking with me. Square Enix announced upcoming Final Fantasy VII Remake themed DLC for Power Wash Simulator.
Yeah. That was to celebrate the 26th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII.
What the fuck is Square Enix doing?
Well, Power Wash Simulator is published by Square Enix.
What?
Yeah.
Why? What is
Square Enix
fucking
game.
happening?
Have you played Power Wash Simulator?
No. Why would I have played Power Wash
very
Simulator?
Cathartic. It is a very
my
cathartic
God.
game. It's on Game Pass, by the way.
I have access to an actual power washer.
Oh, I bet
Why
that's cathartic too.
Why would I need to simulate it?
All kinds
This
of
is
fun
not
stuff you can
an
power wash in
experience
that game.
necessary of simulation.
Yeah, I'm curious how much the FF7 DLC will cost in the game, because the idea of power washing Guard Scorpion from Final Fantasy VII is it's interesting to me. I could see that.
This is a next level dumb.
Yeah. Speaking of next level dumb,
Amazon has reportedly bought the rights to the Tomb Raider franchise for $600 million from Embracer Group, who you may remember purchased Tomb Raider in a package with IDOS from Square Enix not long ago for $300 million.
Weird.
So
That's a pretty good flip.
So they just doubled their fucking money.
Yeah.
Embracer
And
Group,
still got to keep
company
most of it.
scalpers.
Right. Now this has not yet been officially confirmed.
Okay.
And some people are saying maybe it's 600 million in Swedish currency or whatever country Embracer Group is in. And some people are saying maybe it's just the film rights. And if it is just the film rights, this is even better, because then they get to keep the game and still get 600 million. So I don't see, and we already know that Amazon is publishing the next Tomb Raider game. They announced that a little while back, which is already weird.
Honestly, because we've talked about Embracer Group before, we've expressed concern over Embracer Group, and Embracer Group seems dedicated to this image of them being as like pro-consumer, pro-gamer.
Right. Pro-game history, all that
I
stuff.
cannot think of a worse company to sell such a legendary franchise to than fucking Amazon.
Right? Yeah.
Just find me a worse company to sell Tomb Raider to.
Yeah. Microsoft.
Oh my God. Sometimes I want to go back in time and just be like, hey, Amazon just bought Tomb Raider from a conglomerate. And then you can just go, the book website?
Hey, Amazon.com, the book website? Well, in the future, they're going to buy the entire Tomb Raider franchise from THQ after they merge with Nordic. But don't worry, because THQ bought it from Squaresoft.
The future sounds terrible. Oh, it is. Yeah.
The future sounds stupid.
Anyway, I'm going to go back to the future and play Power Wash Simulator. They just released Final Fantasy VII DLC. Yeah, you fucking do that. Just get out. You want some lotto numbers from the future? No, I don't plan to be there now. I don't need them.
I'm gonna go back to Nintendo 64 now.
Yeah, see you later. Anyway, new Castlevania's coming out on the 64, and I can't wait. Microsoft is removing a bunch of games from the Xbox 360 marketplace on February 7, and there's some pretty prominent titles here,
including some first-party stuff.
Orange Box, Peggle 2, other things that I forgot about already.
Daytona USA, Jet Set Radio. In the Japanese store, they're removing Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
Oh no, not Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
I'm sorry. I'm still thinking of Future Man who went back in time to warn that poor kid about Amazon.
It is I, Future Man. What news from the future do you bring us, Future Man? Grabbed by the Ghoulies will be removed from the Xbox marketplace.
I'm just thinking about this guy who's warning this kid about how Tomb Raider is going to be sold to Amazon, but doesn't take a moment to warn him about 9/11 or anything.
Well, what is the fucking kid going to do about 9/11, Saturn? Okay? What is he supposed to do?
I don't know. Tell somebody?
Fucking get an RPG and go to the top of the towers? What is he going to do about it? Yeah, that'll be taken seriously by an adult. A time traveler that told me Square Enix is selling Tomb Raider to a company that's selling it to Amazon said that 9/11 was going to happen. Timmy, take your lithium and go to bed. We're done with this.
He said he's power washing Final Fantasy.
Future Man.
Future Man is stupid. He's gonna hang out with Helicopter Coon later.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway.
Fuck.
Sorry, we were talking Grabbed by the Ghoulies. I'm sorry.
Grabbed by the Ghoulies, yes. Which sounds like an assault allegation. That game that was one of the later... That game, you could buy that game new in Walmart until like 2015.
It's on Rare Replay. You can play it on your Xbox One right now.
No, I don't want to.
Neither does anyone else.
Resident Evil 4 Remake is removing QuickTime events.
Oh, so what's still going to be there?
I don't know. Inventory Tetris, I guess, would be the remaining section of gameplay.
Honestly, most of the QTEs in Resident Evil 4 weren't bad. Like the ones that just let you kick somebody or knock down a ladder or whatever, those are fine. But that one knife fight at the end, fuck that knife fight. I hope they remove that entire section of the game along with the QTEs.
I remember at the time, some of the QTEs felt like bullshit, but I still really enjoyed them because they did add a lot of tension to what would otherwise just be me watching a movie.
I guess. But there were times where the cinematic would be going on for a while, and I would have set down the controller.
So, well, that's your fucking problem, Saturn.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, press A and Y. And I'm like, fuck, which button is Y?
Yeah. I liked it in Resident Evil 4 just for the sheer tension building, because in a game that is so centered around like building and releasing tension, being able to maintain and increase tension in cutscenes like that, I think it served a valuable purpose in the design, even if I didn't love it the whole time.
I get where they were going, but I still would have rather had them as an option. And I appreciate that in newer games, where more games are giving you the option where QTEs are just completed automatically.
Yeah. Dwarf Fortress has earned $7 million on Steam.
Damn.
So that's back pay for the last 20 years of designing the game, I presume, and then they'll just move forward. I'm excited to see this. I'm excited that they're making so much money. I'm also not playing the game because I'm patiently waiting on the next update to hope that it fixes my gigantic, insane fortress that has gotten so huge that it's killing my computer.
It's been out for, 2 months now?
It's been a couple months. It's had a few pretty sizable updates. The last major update was the beginning of January, so I think they're kind of slowing it down and spacing it out. It's important to remember the game is programmed by, until a few weeks ago, one man.
Right.
And now they've hired another man.
Yeah.
So now there are two men
doubled
programming
their staff is what they've done.
Yeah, so it should double productivity, right?
Well, the good news is if they can continue on this pace, of 7 million every 2 months, then in about 85 months they'll be able to afford to buy all of IDOS from Square Enix.
And then flip it to Amazon. Yeah, I'm excited to see this. I'm excited for whatever the next update holds. I've started new fortresses, but my big one is just so stupid and extravagant and insane that I want to get back to it real bad, but it is Crash City. That's what I should have named it. Korean Ratings Board lists a new rating for Batsugun S Tribute, presumably a port of the Saturn version of Toaplan's shmup Batsugun.
I'm okay with this.
I accept this reality. This is okay.
Let's not accept the entire reality. Let's not forget Power Wash Simulator.
I accept this portion of the reality as payment for Final Fantasy VII Power Wash Simulator DLC and Amazon owning Tomb Raider.
I do want to know how much that DLC is going to cost.
Is it no? Stop. Which brings us to our topic at hand.
Yeah.
Which is the state of our collections.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a very weird topic.
Well, it's the beginning of the year. We have to give the state of our union.
So I do want to give a synopsis in that this is really just kind of our thoughts and feelings and opinions on our own personal collections and how they've changed over the last 5+ years as retro gaming has gone from free to affordable to getting expensive to exorbitant to oh my god, are you serious? No one's going to pay that. What's wrong with you?
Right.
And I do also want to note that these are our opinions in a very broad general sense.
True.
And if there's one thing I think the Discord and our community has taught us, it is that we all enjoy this hobby differently.
True.
So please don't take our words here to mean that you should change your habits or feel diminished or that you shouldn't like what you like that we now don't like.
Of course, yeah.
Like whatever you like, however you want to like it,
Absolutely.
as long as it is within your means.
Right.
You know, that why not? But this idea came about because I was talking to someone in the Discord, and they had said something about a CRT, and I was like, well, I don't really have any CRTs anymore. And they were like, what? I can't believe what I'm hearing. And it's when I realized that most people don't listen to our show in order.
Right.
And most people that come to our show because we had an episode on that one thing they wanted to know about, how to set up a RetroPie, how to get into Sega Saturn collecting, how to whatever. And they kind of jump around based on the topics they want to listen to, which is fine. Yeah. Totally cool. But it also means that both of us, and even more explicitly me, have had a weird arc.
Especially you, yeah.
Especially me.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of wanted to go through this and talk about where we are with our collections, with things we are downsizing, things we're still looking for, how we're playing and enjoying games for the most part in 2023. Because I think while my changes are probably more drastic, I think we're both playing and enjoying games differently than we were in previous years.
I don't know that mine has changed too much.
I mean, we're using different devices, we're using different controllers, we're using different services a lot of the time.
Sometimes.
But I think it's worth mentioning the trajectory that we've gone down, and just kind of how our collections and our collecting habits have changed. Because I think collecting is a big portion of this hobby.
True.
And I think it's a portion that both of us are kind of stepping away from and have been for a long time. Right. And just kind of talking about that. And I do want to start with the idea of selling stuff. And I know you have stuff to say about it, but I've actually begun the process.
True.
So I'll go through my stuff, and then we'll cover kind of where you are vis-a-vis selling things, because I know it's an idea that has come up to you a lot.
Right.
I have begun to sell my collections. I'm doing it on a per system basis. I'm selling each collection in a big lot. Because like having these little dregs floating around in my library of like random games from stuff I don't have anymore is kind of sad to me. And I've so far sold my Sega Saturn collection, my PC Engine collection, my N64 collection, and my PVM, which we'll talk about more later. But I did want to go through, because every time I talk about selling stuff, I always get asked, well, what are you still going to sell and what are you going to keep? And people seem very concerned about it. So I've categorized it into stuff I'm sentimental about, and I plan to hang on to, at least for now. And if either of these categories apply to your stuff, you can jump in. I don't know if you've thought about it or not. I plan to keep all my handheld stuff. It's partially sentimentality and partially that handheld collections are way more compact. It's just smaller. I don't have boxes for like GBA games or Game Boy games, so it's just a very small collection, even though it's a decent amount of games. And handhelds are just way more accessible. If I want to play a Game Boy Color, all I got to find is 2 AA batteries. I don't have to worry about hooking a thing up to a TV or converters or whatever. I can just have that experience.
Yeah.
My NES, I have sold off a large portion of my NES collection, probably half of it, but it was mostly dupes and garbage games and stuff that I just never played.
Yeah.
I've pared about 120 games down to around 60. I sold off my second NES, my spare one. I don't think I could emotionally bring myself to sell the rest. The NES is the system that I have the most emotional feelings about. For multiple reasons. One, it was a system that I grew up with and had in my house, but it was also what got me into retro gaming. It was a thing that I bought when I was a teenager. It was, we say that we collected retro games in the early 2000s and stuff. I really bought NES games. I was primarily after NES games, and it is what the NES is why I'm on the show now today. It's why I care. It's what got me into the hobby.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I could give it up. If like I was forced to give everything up, I would still keep my Ninja Gaiden trilogy, my Castlevania trilogy, and my Mario trilogy. Those would be the 3 sets that I think I would probably end up keeping.
You just shadow box them?
It's something, I don't know. But I don't plan to get rid of my NES. It's just too sentimental. Super NES is kind of the same as the NES, but to a lesser degree. I played a lot less Super Nintendo. I have a lot less nostalgia for it, and I just like it less than the Super Nintendo.
How dare you?
Which I know is a controversial opinion. The PS3, I'm weirdly sentimental about my PS3. My PS4, I wouldn't mind using as a boat anchor or a doorstop. But my PS3, I think it was a resurgence in gaming in my life. I never really, I know a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, those are the years that I didn't play games.
Yeah, same. That is definitely the era I did not play many games.
And I've never had that. From the time I started, I've really kind of always played games. I never had a section of my life where I was like, oh, I didn't play games for those few years.
Let me rephrase that. During the PS3 era, I mostly went back and played older games.
Yeah. So I think that counts. But I've talked to people that are like, yeah, for 10 years I didn't play a game.
I've never had that. I don't know that I've had a week that I've not played a game.
It's oddly common.
Yeah.
You talk to people and they're like, yeah, I didn't play games. I turned 25 and then I was like, I'm an adult now. I don't play games, and they just will quit.
Yeah, that's definitely not me.
But the PS3 was a real resurgence for me. I didn't really stop, but when I picked up my PS3 Slim, for whatever reason, I got way back into playing games.
Yeah.
Dozens and dozens of hours a week. I was super duper into it. So I for whatever reason, I'm really, really attached to my PS3 and PS3 library. The Wii U was a Christmas gift for my wife. It was also around the same time we were getting the show off the ground. My daughter was born.
Yep.
It was also a surprise Christmas gift from my wife in an era when we couldn't afford to randomly spend $300 on a Wii U, and you couldn't fucking find one.
Right.
And so it was an extremely happy Christmas gift for me. And it was also when I was working for Nintendo World Report. It's just a very, I don't know, I have a lot of feelings about the Wii U, and I don't think I could let mine go, even though 99% of the library exists elsewhere.
Right.
And I'm now emulating all my Wii U games on my deck, and it works fine.
Yeah.
The Wii is the only one on this list that I keep around because it is so versatile.
Yeah.
I loved the Wii, but the Wii is also an extremely well emulated system.
Oh, yeah.
But it's such a good versatile emulation device, especially if you ever want to hook up to a CRT for some genuine 240p gaming.
Yeah.
It's really just a great option for that. It's just too versatile for me to get rid of. So that's my last one on my list and really the only one that I'm not just keeping because of sentimental reasons.
Yeah.
They're too good. They're too good, Saturn.
Yeah, I'm I'm still struggling with this, honestly. I've not yet convinced myself that I am actually ready to part with things.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened a while back was you really cataloged your whole collection and got a price.
Yeah. And
then I think when you saw the number, you were like, I don't care how much I love it. That's a life-changing amount of money.
A ludicrous amount of money, which is what keeps hitting me. Is I'm like, do I want to have these things that are sentimental to me, or do I want to have enough money that I can change my life? And
right.
And it's been tough to try to push myself into that, because so many of these things have been sentimental to me for. Like you had mentioned, you started buying your NES stuff in the 2000s. Most of my NES games I've had since the 80s.
Yeah, and a chunk of mine as well. But yeah, the majority of my collection. I think when I was a kid, we had, maybe 20, 30, but my collection ballooned up to almost 150 by the time I was done.
Yeah, like my NES stuff, Super NES stuff, even up through PlayStation, Saturn, Turbo, most of that stuff. I've had a majority of it since at least the 90s, and some of it, like I still have my Atari from when I was a little kid. Like I have my Atari from before I was able to read, and so this is a lot of it is very sentimental to me. So it's been hard to convince myself to actually get rid of any of it. If I do start to get rid of things, I think the one that I would definitely get rid of last, if not just end up keeping, would be the Turbo, and after that would be probably Super NES and NES.
Yeah,
because those are the ones that are that I am most sentimental to, and I would say that the one that I would probably be least sentimental to is the PS3. So the opposite of you. Of all of Sony's consoles, that is the one that I was like, I can do without this one.
Yeah. I did put I started putting together a list of stuff I plan to probably sell when I get around to it.
Yeah,
and I have many other systems that are not anywhere on either of these lists. Because I'm not even sure how I feel about them.
Right.
Like PS2, most PS2 stuff emulates well. The real megaton hits exist in superior forms elsewhere.
True.
The hardware is pretty fickle.
Yeah.
PS2 is not a system I loved even when it was a thing. I played a lot of it because fucking everything came out on it. The library was enormous.
Oh, yeah.
But I never loved the PS2 even when it was, the current generation.
I loved it when it first came out. I was so impressed with it on day one. Like I thought that was the coolest shit, because it could play DVDs, man.
I got my Xbox before I got my PS2.
Yeah, I had my PS2.
So I was late to the party.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did not get the launch. But PS2 came out when I was 10. No, I was 12. So I was not affording a PS2, and no one was buying me one.
I was 18 when the PS2
Yeah, you were the
out.
perfect age for the PS2.
Oh, yeah.
My PS4, it has reached a point that I won't even play PS4 games that I own and actively want to play because I have to tolerate my PS4 to do it. Like, there is
Inscription on it.
There's a Fist of the North Star game that is made by the Yakuza guys. And it's only on PS4, and I want to play it so fucking bad, and I refuse.
I forgot to mention
my PS4 up.
The Inscription's lagging so bad on my PS4. It's a PS4 Pro with an SSD in it.
Oh no!
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah.
I do want to spend some time talking about how we're emulating things these days.
I will say real quick, while we're talking about the things that we're most likely to sell in the near future, I think that if I can convince myself to get past the hump and actually start doing it, the first platform I'll probably start selling stuff on, which despite me being super sentimental for it, is probably the Saturn. Just because as much as I love my Saturn, I do love my Saturn. Now I have the mode on there. So I have an optical drive.
You don't even play the games.
I don't need the discs anymore because they're all emulated on an SSD in my Saturn right now. And also some of the Saturn games that I have, like Magic Knight Rayearth and Burning Rangers, are just ludicrously overpriced right now. So it makes no sense for me to be hanging on to them when the market is so hot for the system. And Rayearth I have in pretty much immaculate condition because I bought it directly from Working Design's website for $40 when the system had already been discontinued. So the thought that game is worth $1,000 now is ludicrous,
right?
And there's no reason I shouldn't take advantage of that.
Right, and neither one of us is wealthy to the point that $1,000 isn't an extremely useful amount of money for us.
Yeah.
Well, and like stuff that's not even on my list is like the GameCube.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about the GameCube.
Yeah.
I spent all that time buying all those GameCube games, and then I immediately modded my GameCube so I don't need any of those GameCube games.
Yeah. And then you immediately started emulating those games.
Yes, because the GameCube emulates so fucking well.
It really does.
It is superior to playing on a GameCube, and I can still use my GameCube controller.
And even if I was going to play a GameCube game with an original GameCube memory card and a GameCube controller, I'd probably play it on my Wii just because I can play it off a hard drive on there.
Yeah. Let's talk about how we're emulating things these days. Because I went real hard into the RetroPie and mini console stuff, and eventually just floated right back out to RetroArch on PC and then now on Steam Deck.
Yeah.
To just like, I love the RetroPie. I still think it's a great system. When you can get a Raspberry Pi for MSRP, please do not pay $1 over MSRP for a Raspberry Pi.
Right.
Not because it's not a great computer system,
but it is exactly worth that amount of money.
Yes, the Raspberry Pi was so great because it was so cheap.
Exactly, yes.
That is, and if you're going to spend that much money, there are better, more powerful SoCs and options that you can spend that money on. Please don't spend it on a Raspberry Pi.
Right.
I hesitate to call any decision regarding purchasing hobby items stupid, but I would be pretty close to calling buying a Raspberry Pi for like the over $100 they're selling for stupid.
It's definitely ill-advised.
Yes. So I went real hard on the RetroPie. I really loved it. I really loved having everything all in one place.
Sure.
And at the time, RetroArch has gotten better. Just in the years since we've been doing the show, it has gotten better, more usable, less crashy,
and
more
of course,
versatile.
The RetroPie was running RetroArch the whole time, too.
Yes, but it also had that nice emulation station front end.
True.
And there were not fantastic Emulation Station either wasn't on x86 PCs or
it was just
kind of
really complicated to set up.
Was that it? There was some issue with it. Like good front ends on computers are a more recent innovation in the space, because you've got there's a few of them now. There's a few decent front ends, but they're still weirdly complicated to set up. I don't understand why that is. So I went real hard on the RetroPie. I went real hard on the mini consoles. I still think they're all great devices.
Oh yeah, I love my little mini consoles.
But my Steam Deck has deprecated them. I just don't. Every now and then I'll get that wild hair where I want that, like in air quotes, that aesthetic experience of taking out a little console and hooking it up to the TV and then having the controller, and I still maintain that these are great ways to go about that. But for the most part, it's convenience. Convenience is king and has become king for me when it was not. I have been kind of peeking into the handheld emulator scene. I did pick up that Miyoo Mini.
Oh, yeah.
But this is all knowing full well that any serious gaming is going to be done on my deck. They're just kind of a fun novelty that I'm goofing around with. Even like PSP, DS, and GBA, which are all systems I own decent libraries and original hardware for, they're still emulated.
Yeah.
I just recently, a couple weeks ago, I was like, man, why don't I own Tetris DS? And I went out and bought Tetris DS and then immediately just started emulating it on my deck. And I was like, why did I fucking buy this?
Nice.
Why did I have this urge to buy this thing? So yeah, everything is mostly Emulation Station and RetroArch on, I would say on PC, but realistically it's on my Steam Deck.
Yeah.
That's where I've just kind of floated back to.
I'm still mostly emulating on my PC, which is, I think, where I started the show, too. Like, when we first started so many years ago, and you were like, no, I'm getting a CRT, and I'm going to plug in all its original hardware. And I was like, I own that game. I've owned it for 30 years, but I'm going to play it on my PC.
Well, you did kind of go down the RetroPie road for a little bit.
Absolutely.
You never seem to ditch the RetroArch on PC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love having that consoleized experience. But for me, whenever I would set it up, the thought in my head was, now if I have a visitor come over, this is how they can play Super Mario World.
Oh my God. I have these same fucking thoughts. I bought that 8BitDo Ultimate controller. And then I bought a second one in case someone comes over and wants to play a two-player game on my Steam Deck with me. And I was like, that has never happened in my life. Well, why would it happen?
Like when I was young, I had multiplayer games was a major part of my life, and it was always couch multiplayer. That's how I played everything for like the first 25 years of my life. I played a ton of couch multiplayer with people, and in the 15 years since then, I think it's happened like 3 times. So I don't know why I keep buying so many fucking controllers.
I will tell you this, and this is a complete tangent, but I'm always willing to come over to your house and play multiplayer games. You just let me know. You just let me know. I don't want to. You got shit going on. You just let me know, and I will be there.
Well,
I got the time.
Whenever you can get away from your family for a little bit, and you just want to sit around and play Bomberman or Street Fighter or whatever the fuck, you just show up at my house.
I can do that any old day,
right?
I just gotta know. I gotta know ahead of time.
Any weekend, you just show up over here. Just give me a call and say, "Hey, I'm driving to your house now," and I'll be like, "Fuck, I got to put on pants," and then we'll play Bomberman. But anyway, so yeah, I'm mostly playing on PC. That's my thing, and I have because I have my RetroPie and it's set up, but I broke my PS1 games on it because I was fucking around with it like you do.
Yep, like you do.
And I was like, okay, so I need to fix all my PS1 games, or I can just stream RetroArch over my Steam Link to my PC, where my games already are. And I've just been doing that. Now, whereas you on, I know at least on your Steam Deck and probably on your PC as well, have set up RetroArch where it has scraped box art and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't use naked RetroArch. I use on my Steam Deck. It's all emulation station.
Okay,
Now I spend a lot of time in RetroArch because I love messing with emulator settings and hacks and controls and all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
But the front end is emulation station and it is fully scraped. And this is something I remember about you is that you previously were like, I don't really fuck with all the scraping and whatever. I just have a list of ROM names.
Yes, that is still how I do it.
That just sounds like heresy.
When I am on my PC, I still just pull up an alphabetical list of ROMs and pick the one I want to play. That is how I have always done it. And in the past, I always had separate individual emulators for everything. And so that is one change that has happened is that I have finally embraced RetroArch because it's simply too functionally useful now. It has become, all the cores are mature now.
Everything has gotten so much just since we've been doing the show. RetroArch has gone from this thing that's like, when it works, it's great, to like, why would you use anything else?
And I mean, before RetroArch, there were other combination emulators. Like Mess was the one that I remember back in the day, and the joke on forums was, "It is a mess." So it was appropriately named.
There's some big Mednafen front ends because that does a whole bunch of different systems.
Well, yeah, and Mednafen is the core of what ended up being most of RetroArch because it used all those libretro cores which were built on Mednafen.
Yeah.
So but at this point it is simply functional. So I just defaulted to using it for everything.
Yeah, I do think. And it has been a concern of mine. I've always been, I think, more concerned than you of the experience.
Yeah.
The aesthetic and the experience of experiencing these games. And I think a lot of it is because most of the stuff we cover on the show, I didn't experience the first time around.
It's fair, yeah.
So I need to get some of that ephemera. I need to see that screenshot or that box art in my emulation station. I need that. Right. I need that to understand the broader picture of a lot of this stuff. Because some of it on paper, and when you're just looking at a bare ROM, you're like, why the fuck did anyone play this fucking shit?
Yeah.
Why does this game fucking matter at all?
Who's playing Hammer and Harry?
But then, or what was that one we had on Read Along? It was Headphone Jack and, oh God.
Mohawk and Headphone Jack?
Mohawk and Headphone Jack. And so sometimes it's like to really understand, I want to have that little scraped box art, that little description, the little RetroArch rating. I want to have the magazine to go along with it. Right. I need that aesthetic experience to really kind of get in the headspace of like, why the fuck this game existed? What kind of place did it come from?
See, back in the 90s, before most of the emulators, maybe any of the emulators, had any amount of that, where you couldn't just have box art and description and all this other stuff in your emulator.
Yeah.
I remember I had found a front end for MAME, which has now been elevated to the default Windows interface for MAME as the MAME UI 64. But back in the day, it was a separate package that you had to get on top of MAME. It was basically just a front end. And its advantage was, one, it would sort your MAME library, so it wasn't just a bunch of zip file names that you had no idea what was. And
that you had to cross-reference with a text list.
Exactly, yeah. And then 2, it could import in a zip file full of screenshots and icons, so that you'd have these cute little icons for every little game in your MAME library, so they would basically look like computer programs within this list. And so I understand. I got obsessed with perfectly lining up my MAME library to the point where I had full MAME ROM sets for a while there in the late 90s. And then I would just like do random game and look at the thumbnail that came up and be like, oh, do I want to try that? Sure, why not? So yeah, I can get that.
I do think there was a time when I took my concern over aesthetic too far.
What?
And it is in the notes as Justin's CRT Kool-Aid drinking face.
Justin, sir.
And I think there was...
Are you implying that sometimes you get a little too obsessed with a new idea or hobby?
It's rare.
Yeah.
But it...
How many tackle boxes full of Digimon do you have?
I don't have to answer your questions, Saturn, okay? I'm not on fucking trial here. And it's 2. I have 2 tackle boxes full of Digimon. So for a while there, I did go down the CRT rabbit hole. And at my peak, I had 5 tubes. I had a 19-inch Sony PVM, a 27-inch Sanyo, a 36-inch Trinitron, a 13-inch RCA with a built-in VCR, and a GDM FW900 monitor.
Okay.
The total amount of money I paid for all of those items together, cash money, was $250.
Okay, yeah.
And the majority of that was for the PVM, but I'll get to that.
Yeah.
I have since ditched everything but the little 13-inch RCA that has the built-in VCR because I still use it to watch tapes, and it's tiny and it's cute, and my kid watches tapes on it. It's just fun. It's got a little handle on the back.
Nice.
It's neat. I did buy my PVM for $200, and it felt exorbitant at the time of purchase. But I really wanted to understand the whole CRT PVM craze. I really wanted to get it because it was just kicking off, and I was like, I don't fucking get this.
Yeah.
How is this better than a CRT filter?
Right.
How is it? Explain it to me.
Yeah.
And I will say, the PVM, which you now have,
true. Yeah. It's now
was, and I'm sure still is, a very nice CRT that looked really super great.
I love playing Blazing Lasers on there. It looks great.
But I just never used the thing.
Yeah, that's problem too.
If I was playing anything for the show, which is most of the time, I spend my time emulating because I want fast forward, I want rewind, I want cheats, I want ROM hacks, I want all that other shit. And I also had constructed and was very proud of, and I'm still very proud of, my retro game cart that I put together.
I remember that, yeah.
That had my PVM, my GDM FW900. It had all my retro game consoles all piped into my PVM.
Didn't it have your big 36-inch TV on it at one point?
At one point, because I could not find furniture that could sustain the weight. So I had to build it out of expensive plywood and 400-pound caster wheels.
Oof.
And I was so proud of it, and it was so cool.
Yeah.
And I never fucking played anything on it. And the thing, the straw that broke the camel's back was, I believe it was Panzer Dragoon. We covered Panzer Dragoon for the show.
Yeah. That was a while ago.
No, it was Castlevania Bloodlines, I think.
Oh, yeah. That's also good.
It was Bloodlines. I was sitting there playing Bloodlines. I don't know. It was something. There was some fucking game where I was sitting there playing it on my PVM with my cart and everything all hooked up. And I go, I got to go emulate this.
Yeah.
There was some issue, some save state, some cheat, some fast forward, something I needed that I was like, man, the show's in a couple days. I need to get through this shit. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go fucking emulate this. And I ended up playing it on my GPD XD, the little Android flippy handheld emulator thing I have.
Yeah.
And I was doing that, and I was like, why the fuck do I even have all that shit? You know, like, it's cool. It's really cool. But every time I turn shit on, I have to fuss with all the fucking cables and adapters and get everything plugged in and make sure it's working right. And, oh, this isn't working. Oh, what input was on that? All right, this is a switch box connected to another switch box. And then I was like, well, I'll just take everything down and I'll just put my Wii with all my emulators on it. And then I've got everything. It's simple and it's all on one system.
Right.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm still just fucking emulating again.
Yeah.
Why? You know? So I do want to say it was really cool.
Yeah.
But I also want to say that at the current prices of even consumer CRTs, I cannot and do not recommend picking one up at all.
No, not for anybody who doesn't have a very specific niche reason to have one.
Now, I have been as far down as the rabbit hole goes, which is all the way to the bottom to professional monitors.
Yeah.
And CRTs have always been a great way and an easy way to get native signals for years.
Yeah.
And it was such a great way because it was either cheap or it was free.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to navigate video converters and adapters, which until very recently were extremely expensive.
Yeah.
But these days you can get a RetroTink for like $100, which is a lot cheaper than you can get a decent CRT. And like you said, unless you're like a speedrunner or you just really are chasing nostalgia,
right?
Which again, as we said in the top of the episode, if that's your experience and that's what you need, go for it. I just can't see it being a frugal or useful choice for anyone outside of those two camps.
But there's also a lot of shortcuts and cheats that you can take to get to that nostalgia. As much as people don't, sometimes they're just desperate to get that original feel, but you can get that original feel even out of an emulator or some other retro collection or something. And there's so many ways to get controllers that are replicas of those classic controllers that work on more modern systems so that you can play the games that you remember and you can have the experience you remember without having to jump through all these hoops and fill up your entire house with it.
I think the experience you remember is a key factor here because people that are buying these PVMs and they're spending hours and hours and hours trying to perfect the geometry on them, which let me tell you, it ain't possible. You're not going to get there. You're going to think you're going to get there. You're going to see some guy online that had the same PVM as you and he had perfect geometry and you're going to get there, but you fucking won't.
Right.
This is the experience you remember, but it is not the authentic experience that people had back in the day.
People were running a 19-inch symphonic TV that sometimes didn't show the color green.
Yeah, but like if you have someone that's like, hey, I got this old CRT, do you want it? Fucking take it. Plug the shit up. Have a good time with it. Enjoy it. But again, I've been all the way to the bottom of this rabbit hole. I've spent some time there. I've spent some money there, and I've spent some effort there. And it's pretty cool. That's my assessment. That's as far as I would take it.
I saw a quote online the other day since GoldenEye recently re-released on Xbox and Switch, and somebody had said, "Look, Internet, you don't actually want to play GoldenEye again. You just want to go back to the 90s from before you knew what a mortgage was."
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
I do think you hit on an important point is that in this whole CRT thing, I was on this quest to find this experience, this experience that I want it to be the way I remembered it, not the way it actually was, obviously.
Right, that's the thing.
And I think controllers got me there. Controllers in my RetroPie and having nice front ends and stuff, they got me to that aesthetic point that I wanted while keeping all of the modern amenities.
Yes.
And I know I've talked to several people in our Discord that, and this isn't to disparage anybody, this is where all of our experiences are different, but I've talked to people that you can tell just haven't really checked in on emulation in the last decade.
Right.
They're like, yeah, I ran MAME back in 2003 for a weekend. It was a fucking shit show. Oh, yeah, you can't emulate Super Mario RPG. It just doesn't work. And it's like,
I'm pretty sure Mario RPG has worked on emulators since like 1998.
There are so many advancements.
Oh, yeah.
So I will say if you have, because I think what's also happening is a lot of people just have had their original hardware.
Right.
And now stuff's starting to break down. Now they can't hook their stuff up to their TVs. The connections are gone. They're hanging onto these CRTs and these old systems. But maybe they haven't experienced the last 20 years of innovation in the emulation space. And I would say if you're one of those people and you're sitting here like, man, I really don't want to buy this original hardware games. It's so expensive now. Check it out,
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to our collection. So that was I did there's a little Kool-Aid drinking there a little bit. I bought some CRTs. I did it. I experienced it, and I decided it wasn't for me. I got my money back out of it, and I moved on with my life.
Right.
And I ended up trading Saturn for a bunch of GBA games. So I feel like I got the deal here.
Yeah, my thing is part of the reason why I agreed to buy your PVM is not particularly because I thought that I would be using it a lot, because wasn't going to be using it a lot. Is more because, one, there's a part of me that's like, what if Justin goes back down this rabbit hole in 10 years and is like, I desperately need a PVM, but now they're all $2,000. I'll be like, well, yours is sitting here. Just buy it back from me.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, in the off chance that I do want to play one of these games on a TV that is closer to what I grew up with. Yeah. Obviously, this is much better than any TV I grew up with.
Right.
But I was able to hook up my Commodore to it through a chain of adapters. And it actually does look like a Commodore on there, because Commodore was designed to plug into a professional monitor because it was a computer.
Yeah.
And playing a Commodore on any modern television looks like absolute garbage, because it's not designed for any input that is on a modern television. You could either plug it in RF to a TV, which looks like trash, or you could plug it in with the monitor connection, which doesn't work on any modern television. I can't even plug that into my FrameMeister without going through the ridiculous RGB adapters and stuff. So it does look nice on there.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are still use cases. There's light gun games. There's speed running. There's weird stuff like if you're like, nah, man, just really love the C64, you know?
Yeah,
like
light gun games are the thing, man. I did not realize they didn't work on newer TVs until after I got rid of my last CRT.
Now, there's that device that was making the rounds a little while back that is supposed to make them work on modern TVs. So, you know, even that could be a temporary issue.
Yeah, I had upgraded from 27-inch CRT to my 61-inch DLP, right? So it's a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. And I had just gotten House of Dead 3 on Xbox like maybe a year before that.
Yeah.
And I sat down and was like, all right, going to play some more House of Dead 3. Why is this not working? And I had to look it up online. It was like, will not work on projection TVs. And I was like, well, shit, am I going to have to get an LCD? And I was talking to the guy at the store. He's like, nah, dog, it's not going to work there either. You need an old TV.
You need an old TV for your old Nintendo. shoot them ducks.
I just want to play Xbox.
So that's kind of where our collections are. Yeah. I've started selling some stuff. I think you've been kicking around the idea for a while now. I think we're both just kind of mostly just emulating on computers, you know. I do want to kind of shift into like original stuff we're still trying to collect, like stuff we're still interested in getting.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really interested in anything in the way of games. I'm still actively after magazines and strategy guides, but they've also gotten real expensive.
You're welcome to come by and look at any of my strategy guides anytime you want to.
Sure, yeah. But I do find that when I'm after that experience type feel, I get much more immersed in that experience of playing a game if I have an accompanying magazine or strategy guide than I do having the original hardware hooked up.
I can see
because at the end of the day, I mean, I have controllers that look and feel just like the original controllers of the majority of widely available consoles.
Right.
So as long as I'm emulating, I'm still basically holding the same controller as I would be on original hardware. It feels the same.
You picked up a good USB Dreamcast controller yet?
No, because I don't want to use the Dreamcast controller. So hasn't been a concern of mine.
That's unfortunate.
But having and PDFs don't cut it. It's something about having that magazine in front of me that really does enhance the experience. Sometimes when we're going to cover a game, I'll go read magazines like leading up to it, like previews of it.
Nice.
Just to get excited and kind of see where the media was and where the thought about the game was before I jump into it. I'm always after like decent deals on handheld stuff. But those don't exist.
Not anymore, no.
Like if tomorrow someone's like, hey, I got a pile of GBA games, I'll give them to you for $5 a piece, I would be all over that, but that's not going to happen.
I'll give you a good deal, 50% off on my game.com.
No, I'm okay. That's good. I'm good. If you paid me that amount, I might take it, but I'd have to really think about whether or not I want that in my house. I already have Playdias.
Trash.
I already have Playdias floating around here somewhere. I got. So yeah, I'm mostly after magazine strategy guides, ephemera stuff, even though I know like most strategy games kind of pale in comparison to the subsequent game facts that came out for the games.
Right.
I really like having that.
Yeah, me too. And I'm upset that newer games don't have it.
It's stupid, right? How stupid is that?
I was looking at my strategy guide shelf the other day because I do that sometimes like a weirdo. And I noticed that I have the strategy guide for Dragon Quest Builders, which is on PS4 and Switch.
Yeah.
It's a very recent game. And right next to it is not a guide for Dragon Quest Builders 2, because that's apparently the line where they stopped making them. And the last company, Prima, that was a major strategy guide developer, has stopped making them. They only do their website now.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating to me because, one, they weren't that good to begin with. Prima has been a bad company for a very long time. And two, now they're a digital-only company, which makes them even less useful to me.
Yeah.
There are a handful of kind of art studio, indie house strategy guides still coming around here and there, but it's so uncommon. But I do love strategy guides, and I don't know that I'm willing to get rid of mine anytime
If you go on Amazon, there are tons of like just strategy guides that random people have made about games.
Yeah.
And I know they're going to be the worst trash, but I keep almost buying one just because it's so cool to have like a strategy guide for my game.
I did get Fangamer's guide for Mother 3, and it is excellent.
Yes, you showed me that, and I like that a lot. And I almost bought it for when I played through Mother 3 for the show, and then I think it was out of stock, or I don't remember what was going on.
I did send you the PDF.
You sent me the PDF, and I did use that
because they gave me one of those with my guide. No, I'm at this point I'm mostly just looking for current stuff and stuff that's just behind current. Like I'll buy this generation, last generation, maybe the generation just before that, because I've always had this rule that I don't want to spend more than MSRP for a game.
Yes,
if I can avoid it. And I've got a shit ton of old games to this day, but I didn't pay over retail, and the prices that I see today are just ludicrous to me. I can't justify buying even vanilla trash NES games.
Who would pay $20 for an NES game set? Who would do that?
Right. I went to a movie trading company.
2003, Justin. Future Man has news for you.
Fucking Future Man never gets the useful information. But no, like I went to a movie trading company a couple months ago, and I don't even remember what game they had that I was actually interested in. They had an NES game that I was like, oh, that's one that I had always kind of wanted to get, and it was like $45, and I was like, no, thank you, you can keep this. And they also had a copy of Bonk's Adventure for NES, which was a game that I always kind of wanted, but not for $500 American dollars.
Oh, you sure? It's only half of a Magic Knight Ray Earth Saturn. You could sell them a couple. Here's what fucking blows my mind. I was talking about this today in Discord. GBA boxes are worth more than the games.
I know, because I still have the boxes for the games that you bought from me.
Yeah, because I wasn't going to fucking pay for that. I was like, no way I'm paying that for the boxes.
And so I plugged in the boxes and manuals that I still have into price charting as owning just the box and manual and no game. And one of them is still worth almost $100 with no game.
They're the boxes to GBA games. Like, I understand a box being worth a little bit more money. Like N64, GBA, like those are cardboard boxes. They fell apart. But for them to be worth more than the actual game they contain,
what's funny
what the fuck are we doing, man?
I still have the box and manual and maps and everything for the first Final Fantasy on NES. That's not worth as much as some of those GBA boxes are.
It's so weird, isn't it? Like, at least manuals I kind of understand because they usually have like unique art and cool stuff in them. I understand there's some value. The fucking box.
You know what? I love the boxes. I really do. I love having the box.
Sure,
I think it's
but do you $40 love a box?
I do not $40 love a box.
Especially, I like $3 or $4 love a box.
Right, especially now that you can get good quality reproductions of these boxes on Etsy and other websites like that.
Yeah, for like $10 a pop.
Less than that. Some of them are like $5 a pop, and some of them will give you deals if you're buying a bunch at once. I haven't yet, but I look at them sometimes. I'm like, that looks pretty cool. I don't have the room for that in my home. But you know, it's nice.
Just so we're not ending on a downer, because I feel like, I don't know, we're not really collecting games anymore. It feels like a downer, and I feel like we're probably more positive on the hobby than we've been in a long time outside of prices.
Yeah, because that's my problem is the prices.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about looking to the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think like longer term, I'm interested in an affordable, convenient, universal FPGA system.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people asking us about them, why we haven't dipped our toe in, whatever. I just feel like the current options they're a little too expensive and they're still a little too hobbyist for me.
Yeah.
By the time I get all the boards and stuff I want to do all the systems I want, it's a lot of money. Plus, they're critically out of stock, and then you got to buy the aftermarket case, and it's really ugly. And I'm just looking for that slicker alternative. You know. I also feel like emulation on my deck has opened a lot of new doors for me.
Yeah.
I honestly. And this is what I said about wanting to be more positive. I'm playing more retro games now than I probably ever have. A wider variety of systems, too.
Yeah.
Like when we started the show, retro gaming to me was the NES.
Yeah.
That's mostly what I played. And if we were covering shit, it was mostly NES games because that's what I knew and that's what I liked. I'm running OG Xbox, GameCube, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, PSP, DS, 3DS. I'm running such a wider array of stuff on my deck that I'm playing a lot more and a lot more kinds of games than I probably ever have before.
Yeah.
And that feels good. It feels nice that even when I'm kind of stepping away from retro game collecting, I'm still playing more retro games than possibly ever, with better options in better resolutions. I'm playing Kid Icarus with regular controls. Kid Icarus Uprising with regular controls, Saturn.
I would like
this
to
is fucking
say
insane.
That I am so happy that you have expanded your horizons beyond NES.
Because you got tired of NES games all the time?
It's just because I always love when people get to break past that. Because for a long time there, it wasn't. I'm not singling you out actually, because it was a huge portion of the retro game community was like, it's like I love retro games, the NES. And that was all they would look at. And
the old Nintendo.
The old Nintendo is just old Nintendo games. But now we have expanded that definition a lot, and people are embracing, Sega stuff and stuff on the Master System, the Genesis and the Saturn and the TurboGrafx and all this fun other stuff that's out there. And because I love all of that era. I love all of the 80s and 90s consoles equally. Even the N64 that I don't like, I still love it equally.
Saturn?
No, I meant the real ones. And I'm glad they are all starting to get some attention because a lot of it was kind of background noise, and I'm glad to see it. And also it's getting better emulated for that matter, because I distinctly remember in the early 2000s trying to get a friend of mine to play Ysbook 1 and 2, and the emulators for TurboGrafx were absolute trash, and the only one that ran made you pay for it, or it would reset itself every 10 minutes. So even on their own website, they said, if you don't want to pay for it, just make a save state every 10 minutes so that when your game resets, you can reload your save state and go another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the worst.
That's how you did it.
Yeah.
So. Really, honestly, even if retro game collecting becomes affordable again, the bubble bursts, whatever, and that's why I got into the hobby in the first place, is it was dirt cheap and I was a poor kid, I don't see myself going back to the original stuff anytime soon. I mean, there might be some, like, if everything went to zero tomorrow, there might be some, like, cool stuff that I buy just because it's a thing I've always wanted.
Right.
But the features, quality of life improvements, and convenience of emulation, and even current and upcoming FPGA options have expanded so greatly since we started doing the show that I don't see a reason to go back to original stuff.
Well, I have had original stuff for 30
the whole time.
Years. Right.
Yeah.
I never got rid of my original stuff. And I've always been very pro emulation. Since the 90s, I have been very pro emulation. Save states, rewind, fast forward, those are all things that now I can't live without. I love them.
For sure.
And I am upset when classic collections come out and do not support them. Because why can't you do things that basic emulators can do now?
And have
if I am paying
decades.
you money.
Yeah.
But no, I absolutely agree with you. Everything's too expensive now, but
it is.
The emulation is so much better than it's been ever. And the knowledge is out there now. There is more information out there about so many games that it has become easier for people to find and experience and enjoy these things. And so I am very happy that it has become more available, that we are seeing classic collections coming out on consoles, that we are occasionally still seeing a mini console. So I appreciate that it is becoming more readily available for everyone. And if you have an Xbox, you can install RetroArch on it. You don't even have to hack the Xbox. You just install RetroArch and you can play games.
You just get you just need what? Extra hard drive to boot to?
No.
You don't even need that?
No, you just go to a website and you download RetroArch. I've got it on my Xbox right now.
I thought you had to go in developer mode.
No, you can just in retail mode. You can install RetroArch. You can install Dolphin. You can install a PS2 emulator. You can install a Dreamcast emulator, and they all run great on the Series S and Series X. They don't run so great on the Xbox One, but there's plenty of ways to play your games on your TV if you want to.
Yeah. As far as final thoughts, I do think, it's a little sad to be downsizing my collection. But what breaks my heart more than seeing the stuff go away is the idea that it is just sitting in a box under my stairs, slowly, eventually not going to be working, and will spend its last couple of decades just in a box. Like the idea that these systems will go to people that will cherish them and play them and enjoy them, and then I'll still be playing those exact same games. That's exciting to me.
Yeah.
And I do think we started the show as a way to celebrate these experiences.
Absolutely.
And the prices have gotten insane.
Yes.
But just experiencing games is better than it has ever been.
Yes.
And I think we might be moving away from the chase of it all. But I don't think either of us plans to stop having these experiences at all. And if anything, we are expanding our available experiences through the power of continued preservationists doing what corporations will not.
Yes, and I appreciate that there's been more effort in recent years to preserve not just the games, but the ephemera as well, the manuals, the strategy guides, the marketing displays, anything that people can get a hold of. We are seeing more digital reproductions and digital restorations of these things. And I appreciate that, because that is the part of all of this that I have been trying to hang on to. That's part of why I wanted to hang on to all these physical things for all these years, is because there is all this ephemera around it. It's not just the ROM, because if it was just the ROM, I'd just have emulators.
Yeah, you would just want the ROM.
Yeah. So I appreciate that more of it is being saved. And also, I appreciate when we're talking about our hope for the future of all of this, in our own Discord, for our own show, for our little tiny corner of the internet retro video game podcast, we have seen several people come into the chat that are young enough that I could almost be their father at this point. And they are just as excited and passionate about a lot of these old games as we are. And that is incredibly exciting to me, to know that the next generation is going to carry this on and keep these games going.
I think a major conceit of our show has always been that while a lot of these experiences may be older and they may be flawed or have issues, they still have merit, and there's still something worth experiencing here. And I don't think that it's, because I feel like a lot of people get hung up on the word retro.
Yeah.
And they want to talk about, like, well, it's old and it's nostalgic and it's from when I was a kid and it's the way I remember it. And like, that's all great.
Right.
I'm glad you have that. That's exciting. But I'm not into it because it's old. I'm into it because so many of these experiences are still experiences worth having that have merit. Dudes. And then there's Mod. If you like more Mod references, you can support the show at Patreon. Patreon.com/retro. I'm gonna have to make a Mod reference on some other show, so I'm not a liar now. At patreon.com/retro warriors
/mod.
You can get Talking Wizards. You can get uncut versions of this show. You can get Read Along, where we just read magazines, and it's weird.
But it's so much fun.
It is fun. And we would love to have your support, as we have the support of the following patrons, starting with Danny Spiteri
and King Vidiot,
Jammo,
Mark Schwickendie-Hoffmeyer,
Little Bunny Fufu 89,
Suffer,
Atari 2600 consultant Marlo 221,
Vince the ShamWow Guy,
Adam Williams,
and Chris Courage,
who are all the patrons we want to thank for their very kind contributions to this show, wherein we tell you not to buy old video games. We're against it. We're inherently against you doing that.
No. I'm totally for them buying old video games for a reasonable price.
So yeah, in other words, no.
Against it.
I don't know. Maybe the Atari Lynx is still affordable.
The Atari 2600 is still affordable.
It kind of always was.
I know, it's great.
It crashed in 1983 and never went back. They were just like, yeah, that's dead. We're just going to let that one die.
I love the Atari.
Poor little anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.